Alright, so today you're going to learn how to create a board with different kinds of sculptural techniques for making paper sculpture. We're going to basically recreate what we see here. And you really don't need a whole lot of supplies for this. The best way to create a base is to just use a piece of cardboard like I have here. If you use a lot of Amazon or any recycling you can also use a cereal box that you cut out. I like it because it's a little bit stiffer and you can really see how it holds its form a little bit better than, say, like a piece of paper would just be flopping all over the place. So, all right, so there are 9 different techniques that I'm going to teach you today. Many of them you already know. But it's basically, but there are lots of different ways that you can sculpt with paper. One of the first things you should learn is how to make a tab. So in terms of like attaching paper together. So this is a way you can make something 3D right away. You will need a glue stick or glue or tape. You will need a pair of scissors for this. If you have an X-Acto knife, that would be great too, but not necessary. Just, err on the side of caution when you're using a knife, obviously, safety first. So with the tabs, you just cut out a little, negative space there, glue this onto another piece of paper, and then fold up, and now you have a 3-dimensional shape. Not the nicest, prettiest looking thing in the world, but it's a good starting point, and the rest of these will actually use tabbing to put it together. The next one is slotting, and this is where it's actually a good idea to have an X-Acto knife. If you have an X-Acto knife, what you want to do is you want to literally slice a little line where you're going to then put something through. If you don't have an X-Acto knife, you can certainly use a pair of scissors. I use the scissors you can just do it on the, I usually have them open, just be careful, and then just literally push down and create a bit of an indentation, and then pull it up, and then it should come apart. So you see this little negative space now. And notice that my shapes are all kind of organic, and they're not just like rectangles, so I want you to experiment with that because we're doing sculpture, so do some irregular shapes. That would be more interesting than just squares. And then this literally goes right in, and then you have a plane intersecting another plane. The basis for sculpture. And then I'm just going to fold it here so it's got a little tab, and I can tape it down or I can glue it down. I'm going to tape it down so it doesn't take so long. Okay, the next thing we have is a splice, which is really similar to slotting. What you'll have a shape, a very similar one to one I just did. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cut with a pair of scissors, just a little bit, not all the way through. And a little bit here, that's for the shapes to intersect the shapes. This time they're going to be connecting to the edges. You'll also want to make a little slot in the piece that you cut. And then you're going to literally slide those two together so that they start to overlap. And you have a plane intersecting another. Same thing here. I cut a little divot there. And I'm going to slide that into position. It might take a moment for it to connect. And then you have intersecting planes again. Kind of interesting. And then you can just tape that into position or glue it, whatever you've got. You can use white glue for this too. And that's splicing. Just make sure you don't tape it all the way down so that we can see it. We've already got some little sculptures going on. Kind of cool. Okay, the next one up is scoring. So scoring is pretty neat. I'm going to show you how to do that from the get-go. So I cut out a shape that looked like that, right? And then I actually folded a little tab here down. And then what I did was I used my X-Acto knife, and you can use your scissors for this too. You can use your scissors closed and literally just kind of push down and create a crease without cutting through. Or you could use your X-Acto knife in a similar way, using the non-cutting tip and holding it at more of a 45-degree angle to get a crease. That's all scoring is. It's just creasing. You get a nice clean crease. You can get a really interesting looking sculpture. Cut it right here, fold it, and you can then kind of create a structure going that way, maybe a little bit more open to make it more interesting, and tape it down and into its little spot. You may need to help it up a little bit. Okay, next up we have a curl. Curl, if you've ever curled ribbon, it's the same kind of idea. You just usually works best with strips of paper as opposed to big fat pieces. And you can have a really thin tip or no tip. And you just literally wrap. And the thinner the object that you're wrapping it around, the better, the tighter the curl. So like a dowel rod would be good, or a bamboo skewer could be really good for getting nice tight curls. And then there you get a nice curl. And then we'll just put that down. Tape that into position. Next up we have an accordion, and that's just experimenting with folding. So I start with just a piece of paper that I cut, and then I'm just literally folding it like a fan fold, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So then I get that. And what might be nice is you can glue it down so it's got like a little bit of an arch going on, so you have like an interesting sculpture that way, or not. It's really your choice. Just starting to think about space. And sculpture is all about the positive and the negative space that you create. So being aware of that early on is a good idea, and the different kinds of things that you can do with it. And I noticed that I put it at a kind of angle, and it looks a little bit more interesting. All right, next up we have the spiral. Now the spiral, I started with a circle, and I traced an object. I traced this bottle around a piece of white paper, and then I cut it out. And then to create a spiral, it's really simple. And you could do it with any shape. You just literally then cut in, and then you just cut around until you get that. Pretty simple. It's really great for hanging, but you can also experiment with it and see how it works. If you can do all kinds of different things with it. You can tape it in different ways and play around with the space that way. Next up, we have the cone. Now the cone, you're going to cut out a shape that looks like a Pac-Man. Waka, 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 waka. And you're going to, so start with by just tracing a circle again. And then I found the middle, and then I just literally cut out a pie slice. I didn't do any like serious geometry with this. I was just, trying to do it quickly. And then you literally just turn it in on itself. And you can tape it or glue it. It's probably best to tape it just because it's fastest. And you put it straight down there. And then the last one is fold. And if you know anything about origami, origami is all folded. So that's a great thing to use your talents with if you're interested in origami. It's essentially just starting to create something like this. It's very, very simple. You're just going to have an even rectangle. Make sure it's even all the way up. It doesn't have to be for this, but if you're going to continue with this process, that's what you would want to do. And then just fold it. You must have writing on that. And then literally, you probably will have to turn that, and then you can just tape it, or you could create a tab to hold that together. And voila, you have a little sculpture board. And you've learned a lot of really cool little techniques in a very short amount of time. So good luck in carrying through to finalizing your projects. And thank you for hanging out.